Today we've got a very special piece we're going to start on. This is an early 1900s piece. It was bought at auction. The auctioneer said that it was a barn find. So it is very dirty, as we can tell. I'm showing it to you in the condition that I purchased it in. I knew what I was getting myself into. I buy these all the time that look like this, and under them usually there is some beautiful details. This was an early bathroom sink, basically. There would have been a wash pitcher here with a bowl and a pitcher that you would go to your water source, put your water in, wash your face, do your shaving, what have you. These, they are wood. It did come with treasures. Very old Listerine sample packs. 12 of 79. These would have been for candles, because this would have been the days before most houses had indoor lighting. I have hand-cut dovetails, and it still has the scribe mark for whoever made the piece, where they were making sure their dovetails hit the right spot. All the drawers are 1/2 inch. Which makes this piece quite hefty. It has paneled backs that are put in with nails. They are round nails, not square nails. And you can see where they chiseled out here to be able to attach the top drawers to the piece. Even the glass in the mirror has a bit of a wave to it. Don't know if y'all can see that, but it's an amazing piece, and we're going to make it beautiful and give it a new life. So let's get started. I don't suggest doing a furniture wash such as I did unless you know exactly what is under what you're washing. If this had been a piece that had a veneer, then that would have made that veneer lift possibly. So I knew that this piece was absolutely positively solid wood. There is not one bit of veneer on this. And while cleaning it, we did find a date and a signature. And this piece was built in 1880. So it's a bit older than I thought it was, but that explains why there is no veneer on it. Now that this piece is washed, let's talk about some of the intriguing things. This is an 1880s pocket hole. Pocket holes are nothing new. They've been around for quite some time now. Also, what we found was a lot of cut nails in this piece here, and also all of these are cut nails. It again shows a bit of the age. If you look at the top, we've got cut nails here as well. So now what we've got to do is get the shellac on it. But before we do that, before I put the drawers back in it, what I want to do is wax these runners and the drawer slides, just so that I make sure nothing sticks and that everything goes in nice and smooth. So let's get started with that. What I use is this Minwax paste wax to do this. It works fantastic, and the drawers will then slide like butter. I've done the top two. They were kind of sticky when they went in, but now, as you can see, they just slide like butter. So let's go ahead and get the rest of the drawers done before we even put them in. I just keep this rag in this can because it just keeps loading it up with more wax. So we're just going to wax right here on these runners. Anywhere that wood on wood is touching. And, you know, if If you want, you can wax the back of the piece. This wood is so old and so very, very dry. So the more wax I put on it, the better off it is and the more it will last. So I'm just gonna not be stingy with it. Overall, this piece, as for its age, is in very good condition. But like I say, it was a barn find, so who knows how long it had spent its life in the barn, just getting dirty and dusty and yucky. Wax the sides as well. Like I say, anywhere where wood might touch wood is where you want to put that wax. Now this wax does have a bit of an odor to it, but by the next day it dissipates and you don't smell it anymore. So we're also going to do the bottoms of the drawers. After waxing this, that signature is more visual. What I've noticed is that the faceplate here has opened up. It was like that even before we washed it, probably just from being in a barn, and the temperatures in there probably made it swell and then contract. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some clamps and try and close this back up. So I'm just going to put my wood blocks on the front up here. And Alex is here to help me. Just to hold the clamps, because we're going to go up a bit. Okay. I've got it movement, so I think I'm going to try and tighten this up a bit more. That's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
But it did close up that gap that we had. So now we'll just take the clamps off. Okay, now that we've got it washed down, it's time that we strip off all of this old shellac, and you can tell that there's not much holding it on. I mean, I can pretty much just scrape it, but all I have to do is take a steel wool, some denatured alcohol, and just start scrubbing it off. What the denatured alcohol does is it will actually reactivate the shellac, and then it can be removed. And then what you want to do is just wipe it off. Now, if the shellac was good on this piece, what we would want to do is just reactivate it, spread it back out. Say it were gatoring or something like that, then all we would need to do is just reactivate it. But that is not the case with this piece. This piece has been severely neglected. But that's okay. We're going to show it love and make it beautiful again. If there were a finish under here, this would not affect the original stain. So it would keep the stain and just take off the shellac. Just be sure that you wash that shellac or wipe that shellac off once you've done the denatured alcohol. Now, another method that we're going to use to remove that shellac is we're just going to do a little scraping. As I really hate sanding, I'll do just about anything to procrastinate that task. And I got to thinking about this mirror. It's really quite interesting because here, at the top, here, and here, looks like there must have been some sort of carved design. But, and I wasn't sure if the mirror was original, but then when I turn it over, I just scraped a little tiny edge, and it is silvered, so I think the mirror might be original. But then I got distracted because I think this is newspaper, and if it is, it's original newspaper, and I've just got to find out now. So everything has to stop so that I can gently pull these out somehow. Oh, bummer. Nope, it's not. It's just a tissue. Just kind of a tissue paper. Maybe even baker's paper. Or butcher's paper. Nope, no stamp on the mirror. And no stamp on the mirror. Okay. Looks like oak, I believe. That's been repaired. Quite well done. Just fit it in there. Okay, we brought this piece back outside after sanding it down and denature alcohol and then putting mineral spirits on it to see what it was going to look like. We saw a lot of stains on the top, and although it is walnut, those stains are going to show up when we put shellac on this piece. So the only option now is to bleach the top. The rest of the piece looks fine, but it's just where people have put down water glasses, things like that, that we're gonna have to sort out. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I've mixed up some salicylic acid and we're gonna put that on the top. I've put plastic around the bottom side so that that doesn't end up with white streaks on it. And we're gonna go ahead and see if we can get these stains to move. I've got my salicylic acid in here. Just got a brush and we're just gonna brush it on. And you can't just do just the stains. You have to do the entire piece or the entire top. Because if you tried to do just the stains, you'd end up with little white marks, and well, no one wants that. Okay, so we've got salicylic acid all over the top, and we're just gonna let that soak in and dry, and then we'll wash it off thoroughly. See how those stains come up. The first salicylic acid did pretty good. It's been on maybe 15-20 minutes. A lot of the stains have lightened, especially this water stain that we had earlier. But I think we're going to do another application. See if we can get this a bit lighter and these a bit lighter. I'm not looking for perfection. This piece is an 1880s piece, and I think to try and make it perfect would be the wrong way to go. But we do want to lighten some of those stains. Alright, our salicylic acid been on for about 20 minutes. We're now rinsing it off. I'm also going to give it a scrub to be sure that I've got it all off. You want to be sure to get all of that salicylic acid off. Otherwise, when you go to put your shellac on, it's going to cause issues, and you don't want that. And give it another rinse. And then I'm just going to squeegee that water off. All right, we'll take this piece in. We're going to let it dry for a day or two. And then we'll move on with the next step. Some of the stains lightened, but not totally. All right, let's take a closer look. There was a pretty bad water stain here. It's lighter. There are some blemishes. I am not going to do anything more to take those out. This piece is 1880s, and I don't think that it should look new and pristine. I think that's taking away a bit of the character. So we're going to leave it as is, and we're going to do a bit of sanding. Not a great deal, just enough to lay the grain back down. Anytime that you do any bleaching or anything like that, anytime that you wet the top of a surface, what's going to happen is the grain is going to pop up like little hairs when you get cold. And then what you need to do is sand that at a 45-degree angle very lightly, and that will cut them off, not lay them back down. You want to cut them off. This is just a very well-used 220 sanding pad, and I'm going to go ahead and just lay those back, or cut those off. Doesn't take much, and you'll notice that it immediately, it will feel so much smoother. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to wipe this down with some mineral spirits. That is going to let us get all the dust, sanding dust, or anything off of it. This gives us an idea of what this piece will look like with shellac on it. All right. So putting the mineral spirits on and cleaning it down, that gives us an idea of what this piece will look like once it has its shellac back on it. There's still a few things left to do to it. I've got to work on that mirror, and we need to add a little bit of wood to this second drawer. It's worn down the wood on the drawer runner so much that at the back the drawer's wanting to drop down, and so all we have to do is just add a bit of wood here just to hold that up, and then it'll set nice and flush to the front just like the other drawers do. So I'm gonna get started and see how far we can get on this today. Okay, we got all of the repairs done. I've done all the sanding. This thing is clean as a whistle, and now it's time to get the shellac on it. So let's get in the paint room and let's get the shellac on it and see what this jewel looks like whenever it's all finished up. When you go the route of spraying shellac, you want to do really light coats. That way you don't have any runs. After, you're going to have to go through with steel wool and sand down every surface, but not putting a lot of pressure. just taking off those nibs. The first one is going to be quite rough. It's going to feel quite rough. It's kind of like doing just a prep coat on that first spray, and then after that, then you'll start seeing that it's a really nice smooth finish. So we're just going to go through, sand this piece down. Well, not really. I hate to use the word sand because I don't want you to think that you're going to use any pressure. So we're really just buffing out those nibs and dust particles. Like I say, I don't want this piece to look brand new, as it is quite old. But I do want it to feel lovely. And even just that feels nice. And I think the next round of shellac will give us a nice, pretty look. But you can already tell that it's going to have some nice color variation to it and look really awesome when we're done. It definitely looks better than it did when it was found in the barn. Now what I want to do is, to be sure that there's no dust on here, I want to get a tack rag and tack rag this whole piece out. Just make sure that you take off any dust that would have been left behind in your whatever you sanded with, whether it was a really worn sanding pad or a 4/0 steel wool. Just take your tack rag and go over it. This will also, if you take your hand and follow behind your tack rag, you'll find any dust left or anywhere that you missed sanding. Now, while we're waiting on the shellac to dry on that piece, let's talk about this mirror. I've taken the mirror out. So what I have here is the frame, which is all wood all the way around, and looks like they covered it in a plaster of Paris, sanded it down nice and smooth. The interesting thing that I find on this mirror is it looks like at some point there were floral details here, on the top, and on the bottoms of each corner here. I can faintly make out the shape of a kind of a flower here. So I'm going to see what I can do to recreate that in plaster of Paris and put it back on, and then paint this mirror back to the black color that it was painted. Just going to take my plaster of Paris, and we'll put links to all of this in the description below. I'm just going to put a little water in here into my little bowl. I don't need much mixed up. This stuff goes off very quickly. So you want to try and mix only what you're going to use in the next few minutes. Put some powder in there and start mixing. I can never mix like the right amount the first time. I always have to add more, but that's okay. I always have a couple of molds ready. I've learned to just have them ready in case I ever mix too much. I do that the same thing when I'm doing when I'm casting in resin. I'll just always have a couple of molds ready. That way, if I've got too much, then I can just make up extra molds and put them in one of my drawers here in the shop, and I know that I will use them at some point. I just want to mix this up and make sure that there's no lumps in it. And I'm just using the little silicone spatulas to mix with. I love these things. Got a set in the shop that I use just down here, and I don't know how I would have made it without them sometimes. We'll put the link for these in the description as well, because they are fantastic to have in the shop. It's like one of those things that people don't think about, but it really is quite useful. Okay, and then I'm just going to put some in there. Some of you will be a bit more used to this product than I am. And then I'm just going to take my paint knife and just spread it out. Okay, so we're just going to let this set up, let it dry. I usually just walk away, do something else, come back. It's usually sets up pretty quickly. And then I just keep making them until I get enough of these that I think I can make a design with them. Okay, after making quite a few molds and making a design, I think I have found something that will work. And so I'm going to start applying it and seeing how it works. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, I just take it off. So I'm just going to take these away and these away. And then I'm going to take off the paint as best I can here. All of this paint was lead tested. Be sure that you lead test, and we'll put a link for the lead test strips that I use down at the bottom, but you should always lead test everything just to be sure that you're not exposing yourself to anything dangerous. And should you find lead, it's not a big deal. You can always strip anything that has lead paint with a chemical stripper. Wear a mask, wear gloves, do it outdoors if you can, or in a very well ventilated area, and only sand after all the paint is removed. What it is you do not want to create dust. All right, I've got a little bit of water in my bowl. And get a little bit of plaster. Just going to put a little here. And take our piece that's part of our design. And then we're wanting to glue it down. Okay, we'll just let that dry and we'll go on to the next section. Okay, now that we've got the design on the mirror, and while it's drying, what we need to do is get a color that's similar to what was on it. And it was almost a black, had a little bit of brown in it. So I'm gonna have to guess since we don't have the original color, but let's start mixing and see what we can come up with. What I've done is I've gotten a brown, and I've got a little bit of black left in one of my cans. So I'm just going to use that up and try and get this light brown a bit darker. And I do this quite often with leftover colors. I use them to mix and just make a custom color. And it's a way of using up old product. And most of the time I can get to where I'm going. I obviously have too much brown in here. Let's try again. On this mirror, we've got all of our molds on. They look pretty good. I'm happy with them. And I have mixed up a paint color that I think is very similar to what would have been on here. Again, it's hard to tell because we don't know what the original paint was. We don't even know that this is the original mirror to that piece. But we're gonna try and make it look like something, so let's get started. I'm gonna take a little bit of water and just mist my brush. Never good to use a brush that starts out dry. Okay, let's put a little paint on here and see what we've got. I think that's pretty close. It's not totally black. It's not really gray. We'll know better when it dries. We'll just get a first coat on and then we'll take a look at it. All right, we've got the mirror all painted up, and what I'm going to do now is put some brown wax on it. What that's going to do is it's going to give a bit more depth to this paint. It's going to help to preserve the paint. Wax will work similar to a top coat, and it'll also make it look more era appropriate. So let's get started with that. Now this dark brown is used to give rather an aged look. And we're just gonna let that sit down into like the moldings here and into the cast that we did. And I'm just using a cotton t-shirt that I've cut up to just wipe back the excess. If you're trying to make a piece look aged and you're using a dark wax over a lighter one, the best thing to do is to seal the paint first with a top coat or a clear wax. That way you have a bit more control and it will let you remove wax if you've got too much of the darkening effect. So just keep that in mind should you ever need to do that. The thing with this mirror is we're going to put the same paper back in it because I think that shows kind of the age of a piece. And we're going to put it back in just exactly as we found it. So we'll line them back up, which is pretty easy to do with all the little holes in it. We've got the original nails that came out of it, so we're going to put those back in. I did find one nail that was just like these that I had in my stash because somebody had put a nail in it at some point that just wasn't appropriate. All right, got a hole there. Just going to put that one back in there. So we have this antique 1880s washstand all finished. It came out absolutely stunning. Looks so much better than whenever I picked it up at the auction house. The mirror, I have put moldings on it. Hopefully they're somewhat like they were originally, but I don't know. The paint that I used for that looks fantastic. I think that it complements the colors of the wood. These are for candles. Remember, this is the days before most houses had electricity in them, so you would have had your candles here to light up this mirror and give you a little bit of light when you're washing your face. The carved handles came out looking fantastic. Drawers slide beautifully. All of them. Absolutely lovely. Still left the signature on the bottom, just so that it's there for history to see. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember, hit that like and subscribe button. And we'll see you on the next one.